All right, guys. So in this video, I wanted to go over some changes I made to my training. So for those of you guys who don't know, I just don't. I've had some pretty bad pec issues that have just been causing a lot of pain. And I don't really think I'm in a position to compete for this next meet. So I'm making the smart choice by pulling out because I talked with my coach about it because we have one of two things that happen. I compete, I taper, the taper saves me. I can match what I did on my bench press, which is about the best I can really hope for. I get like a 5-pound squat and deadlift PR. And maybe I'm okay. Or maybe, I get hurt, because I feel better on my bench and I just deload it and then I strain something even more. Then I have to take more time off of training and it's longer to rebuild. Or I just try tapering and I just too fatigued to just make that peak happen. So essentially, I went over the past 3 years of training with my coach. This is like the first real period of somewhat stagnation, although I wouldn't even call it that. It's just a strength fluctuation downwards because of my health issues and whatever. I've gone from a 436 dots to a 500 dots in roughly 3 years with Eric, and that's been awesome. And there are a few things that I looked at looking over periods of time when I had my best training that really just coincided with me seeing more progress. So first things first is that on all my lifts, I tend to respond a little better to a block periodization structure. So there's still some DUP, but more of a traditional DUP setup is people will kind of stick with the exact same setup or have very similar rep ranges year round. For a good example, this is Marcellus Williams likes doing 3-2-1 for his training, and I just don't really seem to respond as well to that. I need to have a period of time where I'm doing more of a volume phase with having sets of 5 or 4 or even 6, and doing that for a block, PRing there, then going into a set of 3-2 or 2-2-4, something within that rep range, and doing a single or a double, depending on if I'm going to peak out or not. That just seems to be what my body responds best to. I think a big reason my bench press started to fizzle in my training has been just because I had really 3 blocks of singles. And I started off I responded really well to it but it became too much of the same thing for too long. And, I need a little bit more variation in my training to see that progress. So, that's really with all of my lifts. So, I think it's also important as a coach to not just have a random periodization, but have something that is specific for your lifters. For my lifters, typically a lot of them do have more of a periodized approach where they're doing, more of this block periodization. Some of them though, they have a very narrow band of response where I have to do one thing and that's the only thing that really happens. If there's too much variation over time, they don't respond very well to that. So that's essentially that. But with squat, there's basically 2 things. So with my primary day, I typically do really well if I progress from going into all paused work to doing a top set comp squat and then having all my back downs be paused. And then when I'm peaking, having more of everything be comp squat. I think the reason for this is that it's a little bit easier for me to recover from pause squat since the absolute load is lower. I also think that, it's less wear and tear on me just because it's less torque about the knee joint and the hip joint if I am pausing as opposed to just, having a normal dynamic velocity on my lifts. So this is something that I've noticed really works well for me. If I don't do that, if I just do comp squat, for example, I notice I get more hip pain, I get more general fatigue, etc. And then for me, just I don't really respond very well I don't really do very high reps on that day. It's usually all 1 to 5 reps on my back downs. Then on my secondary days, I've noticed I just respond best to 7s and 8s. I tried this past training cycle, doing a primer top set within 3 to 5 reps, lower RP. Didn't work for me. Whenever we did anything outside the 7s and 8s, I didn't really see as good a progress. Squats didn't feel as good, but when I have 7s or 8s, squat felt really good, and things were making really, really good progress. And I get a lot out of safety bar squat, and I like it. It's not that off my comp squat. And so kind of going in between those is something that really works well for me on my squat. And just, doing those 2 days a week of training. And I squat on Monday and on Friday. my secondary day is on. So my primary day is going to be Monday, and then my secondary day is on Friday. And then I also do lots of accessory work is going to be essentially leg press, leg extensions, hack squat, belt squat, and this is a lot of the sumo too, about half the sumos. One other thing too on back down work is that it can't be too heavy. For me, back work tends to be back sub 6. Also, this secondary day is ascending sets of this. So basically, I got about 5%, or actually about 4% per set up to a top set. Basically, I don't think of that top set as my actual RPE goal. We're more an RPE cap for that day, because I'm just trying to get a certain intensity threshold that will allow me to come in strong for that primary day. And then I basically do about 4 sets here of comp squat, 3 sets here of comp squat on these days. And then with my leg press, leg extensions, and hack squat, it's about 7 sets per week. Back down work is relatively light. Deadlift day is, so I think I have a very unique deadlift response. So I talked to my coach Eric about this, and was I saying, should I do sumo or should I do conventional? He thinks I can do really either and have success with it. And I would say just what feels most natural to me is just conventional feels most natural for me. And it's very similar to my best actual sumo. My best sumo is 722. My best conventional is 711. But one thing that I think is, the same things apply with block periodization. I also do about 4 sets if sumo, 3 sets if conventional. I just don't respond very well in terms of volume to that. It was just more fatigue on my back. It's also setting sets on this day. But the thing I think is really interesting about me is that I respond really well to high rep deadlifting. 6 to 8 reps is where I build all my momentum. It's an easy way for me to get more volume. That intensity threshold just is better. This is on both my primary day and my secondary day. It's just kind of all that there is. And then as far as accessory work goes, it was very similar. Basically, secondary day to my squat. Just exactly the same structure, just for deadlift. Primary day is also going to be on Wednesday. And my secondary day is going to be on Fridays too. So usually there's a lot of fatigue that comes into this day, but I can perform pretty well as I do a different stance than primary. Accessory work is going to be, just back work in general. And then I do 3 sets of the leg curls. So I don't do a lot of back work because I get a lot of stimulus from this. So I get about 8 sets of back work in general. And that's really what I do. Because roughly it's about half of the stimulus too. I do count back work as a little bit of the stimulus. And this is kind of what helps me feel good and not strain throw up my lats at all. Because I have a history of having overuse with that, and so I need to keep falling a little bit lower. One other thing I'll mention about my accessory work too is I'm not a typical powerlifter that goes RP 6 on my accessories. Everything I'm doing is a mile rep, a drop set, or basically as hard as I possibly can. I love pushing myself, etc. So on bench press, this is where most of the changes are going to happen, because this is I talked with my coach Eric. I've had success with several different training approaches, but the reality is that a lot of it has been really unsustainable. It's been sports of progress where I've made a lot of progress. I've gone from just a lot of progress in a very short period of time. But I've tried a high frequency. I've tried high intensity. One thing I realized is that I don't respond very well to high intensity benching. It just can't be very high in intensity. I respond really well to the same block periodization. Like I said, I did singles for too long. That's kind of why I sputtered. Same thing with deadlift and squat. And then really for me, it just comes down to getting moving the weight at good enough velocity, but I'm getting plenty of stimulus from my tricep work and my pressing accessories. So what my coach and I kind of talked about was what we're going to do is for my primary day, we're going to, hit a very similar structure to my squat. Actually, we're going to basically more or less mirror what I do for my squat with similar levels of volume, with just having a little that slightly extra volume coming in from a tertiary day. That's going to be more so dumbbell or machine chest press for hypertrophy volume. Just because the barbell movements, it seems to be really hard for my body to recover from. There's also some more changes I'm making with my technique, with how I'm moving my scapula and grip width and whatever. But this is sort of like what we're going to be going with and running with, basically mirroring my squat structure, and then with like accessory work, very similar to this. We're talking like on, incline press, dumbbell / machine chest press. And it's basically going to be about 6 sets of that, just to fill in the gaps of volumes. Like, there's a certain amount of volume that I do need to make progress. And, I think that some maximal training has a lot of merit, because like it does matter like how many sets that you are doing. And some maximal work just works, but it has to be smartly done. So that's something that I'm going to be doing with bench press. And we'll see how this works. I have the muscle mass to, bench like 402. I don't have any doubt about that. Just about doing that in a way that's going to help me feel better. So this is kind of like what we're going to sort of try, and then we'll see what happens. But this is sort of like the changes I'm making with my bench press. And then one other big change we're going to make is like with my intensity periodization. So basically, I have like a 3-week block progression, and we're going to be adding in week 1 deload, where I take a lot off the bar, and I basically make some bigger jumps throughout my training. That's going to set myself up for a 5 to 10 pound PR at the end of the block. Is one of the main things I just don't do, is I just don't take off enough weight on the bar, and then I just feel really centrally fatigued, and then I always feel beat up and tired. Like when I say like I felt the most beat up I ever had, like I pushed as hard as I possibly could for this meet. Like my body just quit. And unfortunately, when you miss your peak, you miss your peak. So I'm going to be taking a little bit bigger jumps. So that will look like is like 15 kg jumps on deadlift, about 10 kg jumps on squat, and then 5 kg jumps on bench press. And for right now, I'm going to try keeping that more even throughout my block, to see how that works, and then basically plan backwards from that 5 to 10 pound PR at whatever intensity my coach has me at, and that should hopefully help me feel a little bit better. But again, this is like what I do with all my clients. This is what you kind of have to do as you get more elite with powerlifting, and if you want to really make progress, you have to track these things. Like, what's your client's greatest hits? What do they respond well to? What do they not respond well to? Why did some blocks not go well? And also, another thing is like, just gaining weight, getting closer to 200 pounds. I think I've capped out that 192 to 196 range I've kind of been. And so really the next bump up is like 196 to 200. So getting up there as fast as I possibly can. But yeah, this is sort of my training changes, and hopefully this is helpful for you guys thinking about your training. If you're plateaued at all and want to get some help, links down below for coaching. I'll help you out getting strong and aesthetic. If you guys have any questions, just ask down below.